I'm Jamie, and boy, do I have a story for you. Never thought I'd be sharing something like this, but here we are. Strap in, because it's going to be a wild ride. So, my wife, Alyssa, and I have been married for 5 years. No kids yet, but we've been talking about starting a family. Everything seemed perfect. Alyssa is beautiful, smart, and charming, basically everything I ever wanted. But as it turns out, she's also one hell of a liar. It all started a few months ago. Alyssa's been acting strange, staying late at work, spending more time with friends, and being glued to her phone. I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe she was just stressed or needed some space. But one night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously off. We were lying in bed, and she was texting someone, giggling like a schoolgirl. When I asked her who she was talking to, she just said it was her friend, Claire. I didn't think much of it until I noticed she was always extra careful to keep her phone screen away from me. I knew I shouldn't invade her privacy, but my gut was screaming at me to check her phone. So one night while she was in the shower, I took a peek. And there it was, a message from some guy named Mark. My heart sank as I read their conversation. It was flirtatious, filled with emojis, and way too personal for just a friend. The final nail in the coffin? One message from Mark that read, "You look so much like your husband. When our baby is born, Jamie will never suspect it's not his." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What the hell was going on? We weren't even trying for a baby yet. But this wasn't the worst of it. Oh no, that was just the beginning. Alyssa came out of the shower and I confronted her right then and there. I held up her phone and asked, "Who the hell is Mark?" She turned pale, like she saw a ghost. "It's not what you think," she stammered. "Then what is it?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. She tried to lie her way out of it, saying he was just a friend from work. But the more I pressed, the more her story fell apart. Finally, she broke down and admitted it. She had been having an affair with Mark for over a year. I felt like my world was crashing down. But the real nightmare was just beginning. What I found out next would make this discovery seem like a walk in the park. I needed some time to process everything, but here's what happened next. After Alyssa's confession, I felt like I was drowning. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it all. How could she do this to me? I thought we were happy. I thought we had something real. But her affair with Mark shattered that illusion. I told her I needed some air and walked out. I drove aimlessly for hours, my mind a chaotic mess of anger, sadness, and disbelief. When I finally got home, Alyssa was sitting on the couch, looking miserable. Good, I thought. She should be miserable. We sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. Then I broke the silence. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you do it?" She looked at me with tear-filled eyes and said, "I don't know, Jamie. It just happened. Mark was there for me when I needed someone. We got close, and one thing led to another." "That's bullshit," I snapped. "You don't just accidentally cheat on someone. You made a choice, Alyssa. You chose to betray me." She started crying, but I couldn't feel any sympathy. I was too hurt, too angry. "Do you even love him?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I don't. It was never about love. It was just, I don't know, excitement? A way to escape?" "Escape from what?" I demanded. "From our life." "From me?" "No," she sobbed. "From myself. From the pressure of trying to be perfect. I just needed to feel alive." Her words cut deep. I felt like I was staring at a stranger. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was gone. In her place was someone who had lied, cheated, and deceived me. "I can't do this," I said, standing up. "I need to know everything. How long has this been going on? How did it start?" She took a deep breath and started talking. It started a year ago at her office Christmas party. Mark was her new coworker, charming and attentive. They flirted, and it escalated quickly. She claimed she wanted to end it many times, but never had the courage. "And what about the message about the baby?" I asked. "Were you planning on getting pregnant with his child and passing it off as mine?" She looked horrified. "No, Jamie, it wasn't like that. We talked about it, but it was just fantasy. I never planned on actually doing it. Fantasy? I echoed, my voice rising. You were fantasizing about having another man's baby while you were with me? Do you realize how messed up that is? She just cried harder, unable to respond. I felt a sick satisfaction in seeing her break down, but it didn't make the pain go away. Nothing could. I left her there, sobbing on the couch, and went to bed alone. Sleep didn't come easily. My mind was a whirlpool of rage and sorrow. But one thing was clear. Our marriage was over. Or so I thought. Little did I know the real nightmare was just around the corner. The next morning, I decided to dig deeper, and what I found turned my world upside down. After the sleepless night, I woke up with a splitting headache. Alyssa was already up, sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cup of coffee. The tension was palpable. I grabbed a coffee for myself and sat across from her, trying to muster the strength to face what was coming next. We need to talk about the details, I said. I need to understand everything. She nodded, looking defeated. I understand. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. So, she started. She told me about their meetings, their secret lunches, and how they managed to keep it hidden. It was a gut-wrenching blow-by-blow of how she had systematically betrayed me. But the part that really hit hard was how much effort she put into hiding it. It wasn't just a fling. It was an affair with layers of deceit. I had questions, and she answered them all. She admitted to using business trips as an excuse to spend weekends with Mark. She had even used my business trips to have him over at our house. Hearing that they'd been together in our bed made me want to throw up. Did you ever plan to end it? I asked, my voice raw. Yes, she said, her eyes pleading. I tried, Jamie, I really did, but Mark wouldn't let me go. He kept pulling me back in. Do you expect me to believe that? I snapped. That you were some helpless victim? You had every opportunity to walk away and you didn't. She broke down again, and I just sat there numb. How had my life turned into this mess? I needed answers, but more than that, I needed proof. I couldn't just take her word for it. So, after Alyssa left for work, I decided to dig into her phone and laptop. I needed to see it for myself. I started with her phone, going through her messages and photos. It was mostly what I expected, texts, selfies, and some flirty exchanges with Mark. But then I found something that made my blood run cold. There was a hidden folder in her Photos app. Inside were dozens of pictures of her and Mark. Some were just of them out at restaurants or parks, but others were far more explicit. My heart raced as I flipped through them, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal like never before. I wanted to throw her phone across the room, but I knew I needed this evidence. Next, I turned to her laptop. I found more emails, more messages, and even a few videos. It was clear they had been planning this for a long time. They had talked about running away together, starting a new life. One email thread discussed how they could make it look like Mark was the father if she ever got pregnant. It was sickening, but then I found something that really blew the lid off everything. An email from Mark to Alyssa sent just a few days ago, outlining his plan to expose their affair to me if she tried to end it. He had been blackmailing her, threatening to ruin her life if she didn't stay with him. I printed everything out and waited for Alyssa to come home. When she walked through the door, I laid the papers out on the table and waited for her to see them. Her eyes widened in horror as she realized what I had found. Jamie, please, let me explain, she started, but I cut her off. No more lies, I said. I know everything. I know about the blackmail, the plans, everything. You didn't just betray me, you planned to ruin me. She sank to the floor, sobbing. I didn't know what to do. I was trapped. Trapped? I scoffed. You had a choice, Alyssa, and you chose him over me, over us. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with her. I walked out, needing to clear my head. But as I stepped outside, I realized the nightmare was far from over. There were still more secrets to uncover, more lies to expose. After I walked out, I drove around aimlessly, trying to process everything. It felt like I was trapped in a bad dream, one that I couldn't wake up from. I ended up at a park we used to visit often. I sat on a bench, watching kids play and couples stroll by, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. I knew I couldn't avoid Alyssa forever. I had to go back and face her, figure out what to do next. When I finally got home, it was late, and the house was dark. Alyssa was sitting on the couch, her face streaked with tears. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and desperation. "Jamie, please," she whispered. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but you have to believe me. I never wanted any of this." I stayed silent, just staring at her. Part of me wanted to believe her, wanted to think that she was just a victim of circumstance. But the evidence I found painted a different picture. "We need to talk," I finally said, sitting down across from her. "I found your emails, Alyssa. I saw everything. The plans, the blackmail, all of it." She broke down again, sobbing uncontrollably. "I was scared, Jamie. Mark threatened to ruin my life if I left him. I didn't know what to do. And you thought lying to me, betraying me, was the answer?" I asked, my voice cold. "You could have come to me, told me the truth. We could have figured it out together." "I know," she whispered. "I was weak. I let fear control me, but please, Jamie, I love you. I never stopped loving you." "Love?" I scoffed. "Do you even know what that means? You were planning to have another man's baby and pass it off as mine. That's not love, Alyssa, that's deceit." She looked at me, her eyes wide with horror. "I never meant for it to go this far. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I said, my voice breaking. "You hurt me more than I ever thought possible." We sat in silence for a while, the weight of her betrayal hanging heavily between us. Finally, I broke the silence. "What are we going to do now?" I asked. "Where do we go from here?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I want to make things right. I want to fix this." "Some things can't be fixed," I said. "You've broken my trust, Alyssa. I don't know if we can ever get that back." She started crying again, and I felt a pang of guilt. Despite everything, part of me still cared about her. But I knew things could never go back to the way they were. "We need to take a break," I said finally. "I need time to think, to figure out what I want." She nodded, looking defeated. "I understand." We agreed that she would stay with a friend for a while, give us both some space. As she packed a bag, I couldn't help but feel a sense of loss. This was the woman I had planned to spend my life with, and now I didn't even know who she was anymore. As she left, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. I needed time to heal, to process everything. But deep down, I knew the road ahead would be long and painful. It's been a rough journey, but sharing this story and hearing from you all has helped more than you know. Here's the next chapter. After Alyssa left to stay with a friend, I was left alone in the house that suddenly felt foreign to me. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of our life together, now tainted by her betrayal. I knew I couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself. I had to dig deeper, find out everything I could about her affair with Mark. I needed closure. I started by reaching out to a mutual friend who worked at the same company as Alyssa and Mark. Let's call her Sarah. I asked her if she knew anything about the affair, and after some initial hesitation, she agreed to meet up and talk. We met at a quiet cafe, and Sarah seemed nervous. "Jamie, I'm really sorry about all this. I knew something was going on, but I never thought it was this serious." "What do you mean?" I asked, leaning in. "Well, Alyssa and Mark were always pretty close at work. People talked, but I never thought it was more than just office gossip." "Did you ever see them together outside of work?" I pressed. Sarah nodded reluctantly. "A few times. They would go out for drinks after work, sometimes just the two of them, and there were rumors about them spending weekends together, but I never saw that myself." Her words confirmed my worst fears. I thanked Sarah for her honesty and left, my mind racing. I needed more concrete evidence, something I could use to confront Mark and get the full story. I decided to hire a private investigator. I knew it might seem extreme, but I needed to know the full extent of Alyssa's betrayal. The PI, a no-nonsense woman named Linda, assured me she would get to the bottom of things. While Linda started her investigation, I went through Alyssa's social media profiles looking for anything I might have missed. I found a few photos of her and Mark at work events, but nothing incriminating. Still, It was clear they spent a lot of time together. A few days later, Linda called with an update. "Jamie, I've got some information for you. It's not good." My heart sank. "What did you find?" "I followed Mark for a few days. He's definitely not the stand-up guy he pretends to be. He's been seeing multiple women, and Alyssa was just one of them. I have photos and recordings of him with another woman at a hotel." I felt a mix of anger and relief. Anger that Alyssa had been deceived by a man who was clearly playing her, and relief that I wasn't the only one being lied to. Linda continued, "I also managed to get some background on him. He's been involved in a few scandals at his previous jobs, always related to inappropriate relationships with co-workers. It seems like he's a serial cheater." Armed with this new information, I knew I had to confront Mark. I wanted to see the look on his face when he realized his little game was over. I arranged to meet him at a bar near his office, pretending to be a potential business contact. When he arrived, he seemed surprised to see me. "Jamie, what are you doing here?" "I think you know exactly why I'm here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked uncomfortable. "Listen, man, I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "Save it," I snapped. "I know all about your affairs, Mark. You've been playing Alyssa and God knows how many other women. It ends now." He tried to deny it, but I showed him the photos and recordings Linda had gathered. His face turned pale. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to leave Alyssa alone. And if you ever come near her again, I'll make sure everyone at your office knows exactly who you are." He nodded, looking defeated. "Fine, I'll stay away from her." As I left the bar, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. It wasn't over yet, but I had taken the first step towards reclaiming my life. When I got home, I called Alyssa and told her everything I had found out about Mark. She was shocked and devastated. "I can't believe I fell for his lies," she sobbed. "We both did," I said, "but now we know the truth." After confronting Mark and sharing the truth with Alyssa, I felt a mix of emotions. On one hand, I was relieved that I had finally confronted the man who had played a role in destroying my marriage. On the other hand, I was still grappling with the betrayal from the woman I loved. Alyssa came home the next day, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked like a shadow of the confident woman I once knew. We sat down in the living room, the tension between us thick and palpable. "Jamie, I'm so sorry," she began, her voice trembling. "I never meant for any of this to happen. I was weak and stupid, and I let myself be manipulated by Mark." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Alyssa, it's not just about Mark. Yes, he's a scumbag, but you made a choice. You chose to betray me, to lie to me, and to cheat on me." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I regret it every single day. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know that I'm truly sorry." I looked at her, trying to see if there was any trace of the woman I fell in love with. "What do we do now, Alyssa? How do we move forward from this?" She took a deep breath. "I want to go to therapy. I want to work on myself, figure out why I let this happen. And I want us to go to couples therapy, if you're willing. I know it's a long shot, but I want to try to fix this." I was hesitant. Therapy sounded like a good idea, but part of me wondered if it was too late. Could our marriage be saved? Could I ever trust her again? "I don't know, Alyssa," I said honestly. "I need time to think. This isn't something that can be fixed overnight." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." Over the next few weeks, we started therapy separately. Alyssa dove into her sessions, determined to understand her actions and work on herself. I focused on my own healing, trying to make sense of the whirlwind my life had become. It wasn't easy. Every time I looked at her, I saw the betrayal, the lies, but I also saw a woman who was genuinely trying to make amends, who was deeply remorseful for what she had done. We decided to start couples therapy as well. Our therapist, Dr. Lawson, was a no-nonsense woman who didn't sugarcoat anything. She made us confront our issues head-on, challenging us to be honest and open with each other. During one session, Dr. Lawson asked us to talk about our feelings of betrayal and hurt. I went first, pouring out all the anger, sadness, and disappointment I had been bottling up. "Alyssa, you shattered my trust," I said, my voice breaking. "You made me feel worthless, like I wasn't enough for you. How can I ever trust you again?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "Jamie, I know I hurt you deeply, and I know it will take a long time to rebuild that trust, if it's even possible. But I'm committed to trying. I love you, and I want to make things right." Dr. Lawson nodded. "Rebuilding trust takes time and effort. It's not going to be easy, and there will be setbacks. But if you both are committed to this process, there's a chance you can come out stronger on the other side." The weeks turned into months, and slowly we started to make progress. It wasn't smooth sailing. There were arguments, moments of doubt, and times when I wondered if it was worth it. But every time I saw Alyssa putting in the effort, taking responsibility and showing genuine remorse, I felt a glimmer of hope. One night, after a particularly intense therapy session, we sat on the couch, exhausted but closer than we had been in a long time. Alyssa took my hand, looking at me with a mix of hope and fear. "Jamie, do you think we can ever get back to what we had?" she asked softly. I squeezed her hand, feeling a sense of cautious optimism. "I don't know, Alyssa, but I think we can build something new, something stronger. It's going to take time, but I'm willing to try. I appreciate all the support and encouragement. It's been a roller coaster, but knowing I have this community to turn to has made a world of difference." Here's what happened next. Months passed, and slowly but surely, Alyssa and I started to rebuild our relationship. Therapy was helping, and we were both putting in the effort to communicate better and be more honest with each other. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the weight of her betrayal still felt overwhelming, but we were making progress. One evening, after a particularly good therapy session, Alyssa suggested we take a trip together. "We need to reconnect, Jamie," she said. "Let's get away for a few days, just the two of us." I was hesitant at first, but eventually I agreed. We booked a cabin in the mountains, hoping the change of scenery would help us find some peace and clarity. The trip started off well. The cabin was beautiful, nestled in the woods with a stunning view of the mountains. We spent our days hiking, cooking together, and talking about our hopes for the future. It felt good to be away from the chaos of our everyday lives and focus on each other. But on the third day, things took an unexpected turn. We were sitting by the fireplace, talking about our past and the mistakes we'd made. Alyssa was being open and vulnerable, sharing her deepest fears and regrets. "I want to be a better person, Jamie," she said, tears in her eyes. "I want to be the wife you deserve." I reached out and took her hand. "I believe you, Alyssa. We've come a long way, and I see the effort you're making." Just as we were starting to feel hopeful, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. Curious, I opened it and my blood ran cold. It was a photo of Alyssa and Mark, taken months ago, kissing passionately in a restaurant. Alyssa saw the look on my face and asked, "What is it?" I showed her the phone and she turned pale. "I thought we were done with this," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Why is this happening now?" I felt a surge of anger and frustration. "Who sent this? And why now?" We spent the rest of the evening trying to figure out who could be behind the message. It felt like a cruel joke just when we were starting to heal. The sender didn't reply to my texts, and we were left in the dark. The next morning, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I called Linda, the private investigator who had helped me before. I explained the situation, and she agreed to look into it. A few days later, Linda called with some surprising news. "Jamie, it looks like Mark is behind this. He's been trying to get back at Alyssa for leaving him, and he's been gathering old photos and messages to stir up trouble." I couldn't believe it. Why would he do this now? We haven't heard from him in months. "Apparently, he's been having a rough time," Linda explained. "He lost his job and has been going through a messy breakup with another woman. I think he's trying to drag Alyssa down with him." I felt a mix of anger and pity. Mark was clearly a toxic person, and he was determined to cause as much pain as possible. But I wasn't going to let him ruin what Alyssa and I were trying to rebuild. I confronted Alyssa with the information, and we decided to take legal action against Mark. We obtained a restraining order, and Linda helped us gather all the evidence we needed to build a case against him. The legal battle was stressful, but it brought us closer together. We were united in our determination to protect our relationship and move forward. And slowly, we began to feel a sense of closure. One night, after we had finally settled the case, Alyssa and I sat on the porch of our cabin, looking out at the stars. "We've been through so much," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "but I feel like we're finally on the right path." I nodded, feeling a sense of peace. "Me too, Alyssa. It's been a long journey, but I think we're stronger for it." As we sat there, hand in hand, I realized that we had come a long way. There were still challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about our future. Sharing my story and hearing your thoughts has been incredibly helpful. Here's what happened next. After the legal battle with Mark, things finally started to calm down. With the restraining order in place and Mark out of the picture, Alyssa and I could focus on healing and rebuilding our relationship. It felt like a heavy weight had been lifted off our shoulders. We continued with therapy, both individually and as a couple. Dr. Lawson pushed us to confront our deepest fears and insecurities, helping us understand each other better. It was hard work, but it was paying off. Slowly, we started to find our way back to each other. One evening, as we sat on the porch of our cabin, Alyssa turned to me with a serious expression. "Jamie, I've been thinking a lot about our future, about what we want and what we need to move forward." I nodded, feeling a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "What's on your mind?" "I want us to start fresh," she said, her voice steady. "I know we can't erase the past, but we can build something new. I want to renew our vows, to make a new commitment to each other." Her words took me by surprise. Renewing our vows was something I hadn't considered, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. It could be a symbolic way to mark the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. "I think that's a great idea," I said, feeling a sense of hope. "It could be a way for us to move forward, to let go of the past and focus on our future." We started planning the vow renewal ceremony, keeping it simple and intimate. We decided to have it at the cabin, just the two of us, with a few close friends and family members. It felt right to celebrate our new beginning in the place where we had started to heal. As the day of the ceremony approached, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. We had come so far, but I knew this was just the beginning of a new journey. On the day of the ceremony, the cabin was beautifully decorated with flowers and candles. Our friends and family gathered around, offering their support and love. Alyssa looked stunning in a simple white dress, her eyes shining with emotion. We stood in front of our loved ones, holding hands, and recited our vows. This time they were filled with honesty and a deeper understanding of what it meant to truly commit to each other. "Alyssa, I promise to be honest with you, to communicate openly, and to support you through whatever challenges we face," I said, my voice steady. "I vow to love you and to work together to build a strong, healthy relationship." Tears streamed down her face as she spoke her vows. "Jamie, I promise to be faithful, to cherish you, and to never take our love for granted. I vow to be the partner you deserve and to stand by your side through thick and thin." As we exchanged rings, a sense of peace washed over me. We had been through hell and back, but we had come out stronger on the other side. The ceremony was a powerful reminder of our resilience and our commitment to each other. After the ceremony, we celebrated with our loved ones, sharing stories and laughter. It was a beautiful, healing day, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about our future. As the sun set, Alyssa and I stood on the porch, looking out at the mountains. "We've come a long way," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "I'm so grateful for this second chance." "Me too," I said, pulling her close. "It hasn't been easy, but I'm glad we're here." We stood there in silence, holding each other, knowing that there would still be challenges ahead, but for now, we were ready to face them together. After our vow renewal, Alyssa and I felt like we were on solid ground, We were stronger, more committed, and ready to face whatever came our way. But life, as it often does, had other plans. A few months after our ceremony, Alyssa started feeling unwell. At first, we thought it was just stress from everything we'd been through. But when her symptoms didn't go away, we decided it was time to see a doctor. The tests came back, and the news wasn't good. Alyssa was diagnosed with a serious illness. Hearing the diagnosis was like a punch to the gut. After everything we'd been through, this felt like a cruel twist of fate. Alyssa was devastated, and I felt a deep sense of helplessness. But we knew we had to face this challenge head-on, just like we had with everything else. We dove into research, met with specialists, and started her treatment plan. The days were long and exhausting, filled with doctor's appointments, treatments, and trying to keep our spirits up. It was tough, but we were determined to fight this together. Throughout this difficult time, our bond grew even stronger. We leaned on each other for support, and our communication became even more open and honest. Alyssa's strength amazed me. Despite her illness, she remained positive and focused on our future. One evening, as we sat together on the couch, Alyssa turned to me with a determined look in her eyes. "Jamie, I know this is hard, but I want to keep fighting. I want to beat this." I squeezed her hand, feeling a surge of admiration and love. "We will, Alyssa. We'll get through this together, just like we always do." Her treatment was grueling, but Alyssa faced it with incredible courage. Our friends and family rallied around us, offering their support and love. It was a reminder of the strength of our community and the power of love and resilience. As the months passed, there were moments of hope and moments of despair. There were days when the weight of everything felt unbearable, but we always found a way to keep going. We celebrated the small victories and leaned on each other during the tough times. One night, after a particularly difficult day, Alyssa and I sat on the porch of our cabin, watching the stars. "Jamie, I want you to promise me something," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Anything," I replied, my heart aching for her. "If anything happens to me, I want you to keep living your life. I want you to find happiness even if it's without me." Tears filled my eyes and I pulled her close. "Alyssa, we're going to get through this, but if anything ever happened to you, I promise I'd do my best to live a good life, just like you'd want me to." We held each other, finding comfort in our love and determination to face whatever came our way. Over time, Alyssa's condition started to improve. Her strength and resilience paid off, and we began to see signs of recovery. It was a long, hard journey, but we were making progress. Throughout this experience, I learned so much about love, commitment, and the power of resilience. Our relationship had been tested in ways I never could have imagined, but we emerged stronger and more connected than ever. As Alyssa's health improved, we began to talk about our future again. We made plans, set new goals, and found joy in the simple moments of everyday life. We knew that there would always be challenges, but we also knew that together, we could face anything. Alyssa's health continued to improve, and we began to find a new sense of normalcy in our lives. The past few years had been incredibly challenging, but they had also brought us closer together in ways I never thought possible. We had faced betrayal, illness, and countless hardships, but through it all, we had rediscovered our love for each other. As Alyssa regained her strength, we started to dream again. We talked about the things we wanted to do, the places we wanted to visit, and the life we wanted to build. It felt like we had been given a second chance, and we were determined to make the most of it. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch of our cabin, Alyssa turned to me with a smile. "Jamie, there's something I've been thinking about," she said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "What is it?" I asked, intrigued. "I want us to start a family," she said, her voice filled with hope. "I know it's something we talked about before everything happened, and I think we're ready now." Her words took me by surprise, but as I looked into her eyes, I realized she was right. We had been through so much together, and we had come out stronger on the other side. Starting a family felt like the natural next step in our journey. "I think that's a wonderful idea," I said, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation. "Let's do it." Over the next few months, we focused on our new goal. We continued to work on our relationship, building on the foundation of trust and communication we had established through therapy. We also started preparing for the possibility of parenthood, taking care of our health, and creating a warm, loving environment for a future child. As time went on, our dream of starting a family became a reality. Alyssa and I were overjoyed when we found out she was pregnant. It felt like a miracle, a testament to our resilience and love. The pregnancy brought its own set of challenges, but we faced them together, supporting each other every step of the way. The day our daughter, Emily, was born was the happiest day of our lives. Holding her in my arms for the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and gratitude. She was a symbol of our journey, a new beginning that we had fought so hard for. Watching Alyssa with Emily, I saw a strength and tenderness that filled me with awe. She had come so far, and her love for our daughter was a beautiful reflection of the love we had rebuilt together. As a family, we found joy in the everyday moments, cherishing the time we spent together and the memories we created. Looking back on our journey, I realized how much we had overcome. Betrayal, illness, and countless challenges had tested us, but we had faced them head-on, refusing to give up on each other. Our love had been forged in the fire of adversity, and it was stronger and more resilient because of it. Life continued to throw us curveballs, as it always does, but we faced them with a sense of unity and determination. We had learned that together we could overcome anything, and that knowledge gave us the strength to keep moving forward. As I write this, I'm filled with gratitude for the journey we've been on. It hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it. Alyssa, Emily, and I are living proof that love can endure, that it can be rebuilt even after it's been broken. Our story is one of resilience, forgiveness, and new beginnings. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Your support has been a source of strength, and I hope our story can offer hope to others who are facing their own challenges. Here's to new beginnings and the beautiful, unpredictable journey of life. Signing off, Jamie.